Okay, well, we're here with Yes Network reporter Justin Shackil. It is the first day of pitchers and catchers reporting to camp. So, what better day to have you on? Justin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Julian. I appreciate you having me on. Always a great time joining you on your platforms. And it doesn't feel like pitchers and catchers from where we're sitting back here in the Northeast. I had to take snow off my car this morning. So I definitely long for all the social media clips and the footage that we see on TV of pitchers and catchers simply having a game of catch, right?
I'm having so much fun today. We were shoveling snow outside, trying to make a path for the driveway just so we could drive our cars out later.
It's not fair, man. It's not fair. Oh, my gosh. You
But
can't tell
yeah,
us it's spring training, but then snow comes down.
absolutely not. So let's get to it, Justin. Last year, you had a really good year. You were on a lot of games with Susan calling the games. So, like, how cool is it sitting in that radio chair and getting the call like New York Yankee games?
Oh, amazing. I mean, and there's such a big difference starting out that position where I was filling in for John Sterling because at the beginning it was just for road games. And then starting to do some home games, it got real heavy and surreal because when you sit in that chair for the first time at Yankee Stadium, I think that's when the reality hits and you really feel the realness of what you're actually doing. So it was everything that I could have dreamt it could be growing up as a massive Yankee fan and honestly listening to John and Susan. You know, they were my professors when learning this game, Michael Kay as well. And just to kind of play in that sandbox is a huge honor and something that I don't, take for granted at all. So having her next to me as a partner and just as a reference and, someone to I'll just flat out guide me along was a big thrill and a huge honor, and I definitely cherish those games that we did together.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how cool it is as someone that does some type of broadcasting stuff, not obviously on your level. It's definitely something a lot of people aspire to do. So the fact you've been able to do it these past few years has been awesome. And I know you touched on it before we talked. So what is it like working with the GOAT, John Sterling? I know you said you did some games in 2023 with him.
Oh, it's you have a front row seat to like a vaudeville act. I mean, I think John is the cream of the crop when it comes to entertainers. He's flat out entertaining, and that is so important. I mean, look, we watch sports because we're here and we want to be entertained, plain and simple. And he can just go in so many different areas and deliver entertainment on the air. And he is a radio broadcaster personified. So I just had such a awesome time watching him out of the corner of my eye while we were on the air together, sitting next to one another. And especially in big moments, look, he's 85, 86. He's got more energy than three-quarters of the broadcasters in the league. And it's so fun to watch when a big play happens or a big hit, you have maybe a base hit down the line for extra bases, how jacked up he still gets for an RBI double where the Yankees tie the game or maybe they take the lead. It's so fun to watch. So it was great to observe because I think, Yogi said it, you learn a lot by observing. And that's so accurate. And I learned a lot just by watching him kind of at the corner of the eye when we were able to share the booth for a handful of games and Susan was out.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how cool it is. I've been lucky enough to talk with him a few times, and even like now when he's retired, his energy is still there. Like you hear him on the K show, he's still as excited as ever. I feel like he's gonna have that itch when the season starts, and he's gonna miss it a lot probably. And last year he was in and out, but definitely got to go back for the World Series, which obviously he wishes would have been a lot better, and a lot of us do too. But at least he got that experience on his way out. So how cool was it to listen to him one last time?
I'll tell you what, that October run, I was doing the post game coverage for all the games. So I was with the two of them the entire way. And it was such a treat and something that I'm always going to remember. And yeah, the Yankees lost the World Series, but I'm not going to forget being on the air for them while they won the pennant and to be able to do it with John and Susan and kind of see their last innings together. It was such a treat and so cool maybe being on the air with a post-game show in that booth after they clinched the division series in Kansas City. And then when they won the pennant in Cleveland, I'm doing our post-game show right next to John, and he's kind of having a moment to maybe observe the field one last time, take it all in. And when people talk about John and Susan, and when they ask me about them years down the road, I think October of 2024, despite the end result not going the way we wanted it to, that's going to be at the front of my mind. Those are some memories that are going to, live with me forever.
Of course. I mean, look, it was still the first World Series run in 15 years. It's still significant, even though they lost. It was a long time since '09, so they got that monkey off their back. Now there's obviously one more step to take to see if they can go all the way after all this time. So I know they lost Soto, obviously. Like, how would you grade the Yankees offseason? Let's say they don't add a third baseman and they don't bring anyone else in. What are you giving them as a grade this offseason?
If they don't add a third baseman from the outside, I would probably give them a B or a B plus, only because they went into the offseason knowing that they needed to fill a spot in the infield, whether it be third base and second base. So if they start opening day without adding someone, that's, in my eyes, that's an issue. I don't think that's the way they'll go. I think they obviously recognize that it's an issue. But overall, for losing a generational hitter like Juan Soto, they pivoted really well. I really like the moves they made. I think I would have loved the pivot if they were able to somehow acquire Kyle Tucker. He was available. Was he available to the Yankees? I heard conflicting rumors, whispers, if you will. I heard that the Astros weren't going to deal him to the Yankees. I heard the Yankees were reluctant to kind of acquiesce to the Astros asking price. If he was available to them, I know he was only a 1-year player with a contract season coming up here, and I know you probably don't want to do that 2 years in a row. But I kind of look at this period that we're in right now, where this year and next year, you really got to hyper focus and push the turbo button. I keep saying it to a bunch of people: push the turbo button, because these 2 years you have Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge. Judge is going to be 33 in a couple months. Garrett Cole is going to turn 35 later this year. You don't know how many seasons you get peak of their primes, Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge. So I think the next 2 years are paramount to make your case and make sure that you're doing everything you can to leave no doubt and win a world title. And Kyle Tucker would have made the loss of Soto a lot easier to digest. Look, didn't happen. They still did a terrific job pivoting, and they got their moves done early. People are saying, man, the Yankees haven't done much. They took care of their business really early in the offseason, aside from, again, that one infielder that they kind of need to obtain. But overall, to do 90% of your offseason work in early December, that's impressive, and they should be getting credit for that. So I do feel pretty good about how the Yankees are. I think they're a more complete team. Are they a better team? We're going to find out once the games get going.
I agree with you 100%. And one thing that's interesting to me about that is they could have had their infield set in theory. If they kept Caleb Durbin. Now, I know that Devin Williams you're not going to lose sleep over Durbin for Williams, but let's pretend they kept Caleb Durbin. I bet you feel a lot better about the infield now. Maybe Durbin goes to second. Maybe we keep Jazz at third, but then there's no Devin Williams. So there's definitely a lot of pros and cons there.
I'll tell you what. When it comes to Caleb Durbin and what the Yankees were saying about him coming to camp as the starting second baseman, I never believed it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a good sign, because despite talking to a lot of people in Yankees player development and asking them, hey, who's a guy who's going to help this team sooner rather than later? A common answer that you get, it's definitely Caleb Durbin. He had the makeup of a big leaguer for sure. And you know what the Yankees did? They sold high on that. And I think that is something that needs to be applauded, because they sold high to get arguably one of the best lockdown closers in baseball. And that matters, especially what you saw last year. There wasn't a ton of swing and miss with that bullpen, maybe not as much as a lot of people would like. Clay Holmes, when you think about it, I think he's a nice closer pre-shift rules.
Yeah.
After the shift rules are put in place, maybe that's not the best role for him, because when you put the ball in play, things kind of happen. And I think you have more swing and miss in the closer's role, in the setup role, and you did that by selling high on a prospect. You got a terrific closer, and that is a premier position, a position you want to make sure you have bolted down. And the Yankees did that with a guy who, quite frankly, look, we don't know much about. We don't truly know what Caleb Durbin is going to be. And I go back to this 2-year window. Can they afford to wait around and see what Caleb Durbin is? In my opinion, not right now. They can't.
That's a good point. And I did cover him a lot, and I thought he was pretty good. But it is Devin Williams. So when the trade was made, I liked it. It's just I like it less because they haven't addressed the infield yet. Like I would feel differently if they had addressed the infield. Probably, maybe they still will, like you're saying. It's just like the Arenado stuff's really conflicting. Like the Yankees people are saying they're not really interested. Some Cardinals people are saying the Yankees are poking around. Like, do you feel there's anything there, or do you think they're going to go a different direction?
Ultimately, I think it'll be a different direction. I just think there's too much money involved for the Cardinals to feel the heat and pressure and kind of eat most of it. $74 million is a lot. If you told me that they, I don't even know, maybe eat $5 million a year, or find a way to take $20 million off that contract, it's still a lot. It's still a player in his mid-30s. I know he's a better option than what you have now. Maybe you bite, but it might just be a bit too costly for both teams, really. And it's going to be a matter of whether the Cardinals blink or not. How badly do they want a portion of that money off their books? I'm not sure. I'd kind of lower the expectation in terms of name brand. I don't really know where you go. It might be a name that pops out of nowhere and maybe not shock us, but I was putting it this way. If you are able to obtain some type of 2019 Gio Urshela from a team, right? That's going to be enough. That's going to be enough than the alternative you're facing right now internally. So where does that leave you? I think it casts a wide net, and I think you have to wait these first several weeks of spring training for it to play out and have other teams kind of get their ducks in a row.
I actually was feeling the same exact way about a Gio Urshela type guy. I may have even mentioned that a few times. That's exactly what they need. A guy that could get like 3 WAR, play good defense, maybe be a league average bat around. A guy I really like for that role, if the Pirates would be willing to play ball, is Brian Hayes. Like I mentioned that idea a few times. I feel like he literally fits the Gio Urshela mold that we're talking about. I don't know if they're willing to play ball, but that's the type of guy that could work.
Yeah, I tell you what, I would follow the Bregman breadcrumbs. If you think about whether he goes to the Cubs, maybe Nico Horner's available. If he goes to the Tigers, maybe a Matt Vierling type is available. I'm spitballing names here randomly, but another name that I think about is Josh Smith, former Yankee prospect who's kind of a jack of all trades with the Rangers, doesn't really have a set starting position. I wonder what it would take to maybe get him back into the Yankees organization. Those are that's the type of way I feel like this is going to go. So you're going to have to wait for Bregman to sign and then kind of assess where the entire league is at.
Right, because Bregman could also impact Boston because maybe they get Arenado if Bregman doesn't go there because that's been talked about. And I like the Josh Smith idea too because he's also a switch hitter, so that's useful for them too. He's pretty good at defense. He's not like a crazy impactful bat, but it's like pretty good, like around league average maybe. So I think that's an avenue worth exploring. Matt Vierling's another guy. I would even kick the tires on Jung if the Tigers are willing to do that, but that's another young guy, like you said. So maybe it's too many young guys. It's like you already have the 3 with Volpe, Dominguez, and Wells. I did hear you talk about them with Derek yesterday. So out of those 3, who do you expect to have the biggest season or maybe be the most impactful?
I think the player that the Yankees are going to give every opportunity to, and rightfully so, just because of the pedigree and because of what they're paying him, and because right now he's healthy, it would be DJ LeMahieu. I mean, he deserves the opportunity to get a look if he's healthy. Now, that is asking a lot for a player in his mid-30s who's been hampered by foot and hip injuries the last couple of years. But I don't think it's manager speak so much when Aaron Boone talks about the faith he has in LeMahieu. I've seen LeMahieu play since he was in Double-A with the Cubs in 2011. You're not going to get a bigger DJ LeMahieu fan as a person or as a player than me. It's still asking a lot of a guy who, again, has been slowed by those specific injuries the last couple of years. So I am interested genuinely to see how that plays out. Oswald Peraza probably would be next on my list because I think he just offers the best defense. And when you have strengthened the pitching staff the way they have, what better way to make it even stronger than have guys at premier defensive positions? I think one of the things that cannot be overlooked with what the Yankees did this offseason is they have returned most of their players to their natural defensive positions. I think that's going to make a big difference. So I would go Peraza there. And then I would go with Oswaldo Cabrera, but only because I really like him in that utility role. I love him having to bounce around. So him being a steady everyday presence at one particular position, I don't think it serves the team very well. I don't think that's the best option.
I agree with you on that across the board. My problem with Peraza is that he's out of options. So is he going to make the team? He's going to have a great spring to even make the team because you look at the roster crunch, you're going to need a backup catcher, and Grisham's still here. So that really only leaves 2 extra spots. So it's going to be tight for him to make it. I've been a fan. I want to see him get a runway. If there's a chance to give him a runway, there's no better time than now. So he needs to have a good spring, make the roster, and then let's see if they actually give him a shot here.
It's such a tricky spot for the team and the player to be in because you're right. The player needs some run here, but you already have 3 young players who have a lot to prove for themselves this season, and they're definitely going to get run. And I'm talking about, again, Volpe, Wells, and Dominguez, and they all have different questions to answer, but they're going to be in there. They're all going to get those opportunities, and specifically with Dominguez, he's in a different spot than Wells and Volpe, but I really believe the Yankees need to just have him play every day. So that's 3 players right there. That's a third of your lineup that you are depending to take a big step forward in their development as young big leaguers. Can you afford a 4th?
Yeah, it's tough.
That's a lot to ask for a team with world championship aspirations. So that's why I believe that the real everyday third baseman probably is not on the roster right now.
I agree with you 100%. I hope they see it the same way, personally, looking at it. If they want to try to really compete for a championship like we know they want to do and get over that juggernaut that's the Dodgers. So I'll ask you, outside the Yankees, what do you make of the Dodgers' crazy offseason, all this spending, everything they've done the last 2 years?
I'm for it, man. I mean, look, they're not breaking the rules. Kind of feels like they are, but they're not.
Yeah, so right.
So maybe it's something that the league does have to fix with the next CBA. Deferrals kind of, have mixed feelings about them. Teams have done it before. The Nationals always stuck out to me with deferrals and their big money contracts, but the Dodgers just seem to do it every time now. And in a way, it feels like they're just building up debt. But
yeah,
look, they're not breaking the rules. They're spending money. They're trying their hardest to put their best foot forward and put forth the best team possible, and they're obviously successful in it. Now they have resources that most teams don't. The team is not the big money maker for the owners. It's it's not a hobby, so to speak, but it's it's a glorified side gig. It's wild to wrap your head around that, but it's true.
You're right.
So they're definitely playing at a different level. They're spending at they're doing it at a different level, but we've seen wacky things happen. I mean, the Padres took them to the brink in the postseason last year. The Mets played them hard. I truly believe that if the Yankees won Game 5 and they had to go back on the plane and had to start thinking real thoughts on a cross-country flight with the World Series going back for Game 6, I thought we had, a true fall classic coming up. But they're doing, they're doing what any fan would want their team to do. And obviously every other fan base is going to hate it. So, they're doing something right by the fans' perspective.
Yeah, you made some good points about the World Series, too. Think about that in Game 1. The Yankees could have been up 3-2 in theory, and then the Yankees maybe win the World Series. So, it wasn't really as lopsided as it would appear. A lot of stats were, pretty even, too. It was just the defense and execution, the key spots is where the Dodgers really outdid the Yankees.
Yeah, they shot themselves in the foot in big spots. I kind of think about it the same way, I think it was 2014, like the Stanley Cup Finals, the Rangers and the Kings. I think the Rangers
Hmm.
got swept, but those games were really close.
Uh-huh.
And this kind of looked like a whitewash, and it in a way it was, but it also wasn't. And I know they were down 3-0. They won game 4. They were in control of game 5, and just the way everything was working out with how the Dodgers were going to align their pitching, and again, getting on that flight and going across the country and having to really sit there and think about how the rest of this series is going to go for them, despite being in a commanding lead, I think that would have mattered. I think momentum could have carried them. I'm not saying the Yankees would have won the World Series. I'm not saying they would have pushed it to a game 7, but man, it would have been way more interesting than inning 6, 7, 8, and 9 at Yankee Stadium in game 5.
I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately, we'll never get to know, but
Yeah.
we'll see if they can get it back this year. So I'm going to give you an interesting exercise here. I'm going to give you the 4 biggest acquisitions for the Yankees this offseason, and I want you to rank them on the impact of importance you think they'll play this year. So we're going to start with Max Fried. We mentioned Devin Williams, then Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt.
Okay. How are we ranking them again?
Rank them from 1 to 4, like with importance to the team this year.
1 to 4. All right. I'm going to go Devin Williams 1.
Wow.
I'm going Devin Williams 1. Do you want me to explain myself or just list them? You tell me.
Okay. You could just list them and then maybe explain at the end.
Okay, so I'll do that. 1 is Devin Williams. 2 will be Max Fried. 3 is Cody Bellinger. 4 is Paul Goldschmidt. I am a pitching junkie, so I'm going to always lean toward pitching. I think, again, what we were talking about before with the bullpen and what we saw last year, we know how many games were close and also lost in the 9th inning with maybe an out or 2 to go, and how many more games could have possibly been won despite a 94-win regular season. I think a lot of that gets cleaned up, and I think the depth of the bullpen is something that I'm really encouraged with. So you have Devin Williams there. You have Luke Weaver, who I know relievers are volatile, but I have full faith that he can replicate what he's been doing. I just think the bullpen's deeper. I think there's more swing and miss, and I think it all starts with Devin Williams. So I'm really excited to see that type of lockdown option late in games. Max Fried presents this pitching staff with arguably one of the best number 2 options in baseball. I think he takes a little bit of load off the ace in Garrett Cole. I think he takes a little bit of off Carlos Rodon. And I think the Yankees starting rotation had a brilliant year in 2024. They did a terrific job kind of weathering the storm before Garrett Cole returned, and they continue to do it, and they were healthy. So, look, they pitched deep into October last year. That's a big adjustment. It shortened their offseason. You have one arm who didn't experience that, and it's a high-quality arm. He's arguably, fresher because of that. I think all of that matters. I'm really excited to see what Max Fried can provide us, especially in the first half of this contract that they signed him to. So I am bullish on those 2 moves for sure. Cody Bellinger is a very close 3 because he kind of creates that domino effect like I talked about, where you can put players in their natural spots. Aaron Judge could go to right field. You have him, I know, in center field at this moment. I don't know how much the Yankees are married to Bellinger in center, Dominguez in left.
Right.
I think we still need to, have that play out, but I think he represents a steadiness in the outfield. So I'm really high on Cody Bellinger. And then Paul Goldschmidt, he's 4th because it's 1 year.
Right.
And I think he will be able to provide more than what Anthony Rizzo and Ben Rice were able to do last year at first base. And I love the player. I mean, that's a guy who I saw play in the minors. And, there was a handful of guys who are really special talents, and you can kind of just see it from a young age. That's what Paul Goldschmidt's been. I think he's a future Hall of Famer. So just having that leadership, I think it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, I think that was a great explanation, honestly. I like Devin Williams a lot. having him over Fried really just shows how many games Clay Holmes botched last year. Because if you cut that number in half, that's a bigger difference than Fried can make in theory. Because if you think about it, Fried's kind of replacing Nestor in a sense, and like that will be a big upgrade, but it might not be as big as Williams over Holmes.
Yeah, I just think that there are, again, the I hate saying this because Clay Holmes is a really good pitcher, but for whatever reason, after the shift restrictions were put in place, it's like, hey, that role might be wrong for you. And when the ball is put in play, just it sounds so easy, but things happen.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with weak contact, little dribblers, rollers. For the most part, that's what it was. But it matters. It keeps the line moving. So I think you need a lockdown presence there, and I think Devin Williams is that guy.
And sadly for Holmes, the defense will be way better for him this year if he
That's
was
true as
able to
well.
stick around. That's the
Yeah,
crazy thing about that.
accurate.
So speaking of another guy that needs defense to help him, Marcus Stroman, do you think he actually sees the opening day roster, or do you think he'll be gone before then?
Oh man, that's a great question. They could say the Yankees could say a lot with Marcus Stroman now in camp, so it kind of does get awkward. I know Aaron Boone used that word the other day, but I think they're going to still try and unload him. And if they can't, that's a really good option to have. It really is. I think with just him being here for year two, but also the defense improving behind him, I think that's going to matter if he does pitch in pinstripes. That's definitely wait and see. I don't have that crystal ball to say one way or the other. I still think if they can find a taker to eat some of that contract, they probably will. But if you're looking at the depth chart and injuries are inevitable, to have Marcus Stroman come in as that filler, it's a pretty good option.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as down on him as other people are. I actually did like the move at the time. And last year, people forget he was pretty important when Cole was injured. Before Luis Hill fully emerged, like they didn't know Hill was going to emerge. That's part of the reason why Stroman made more sense as well last year. So, like, he did hold a big role in the beginning. We did do a third base situation, but okay. So, like, yeah, I mean, I think he's serviceable still. Maybe his ERA could be like high threes or low fours if he sticks around, depending. Maybe he gets like 100 innings because we know they're going to keep him under 140 if he does stick around for obvious reasons. So, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world to keep him around. It just creates an awkward tax situation because they're only $5 million over. So, like, if they're going to be $5 million over, they might as well go up higher than that.
You're right. What I'm curious with Stroman, if he does pitch for the Yankees, is what that ground ball rate's going to look at, because it did take a dip last year. Now, was that because of him, or did ground balls get through the infield for hits? Probably a little bit of both. But again, if you're going to strengthen up that infield behind him, I'm curious to see what he's able to do with guys in their natural positions.
Right. So, Justin, I know I'll let you get going. So, one last question before I let you go. What has been your favorite game to call in the booth, or like your favorite moment working for Yes? Is there any game or moment that stands out to you more than any other ones?
Man, let me think. I mean, the perfect game obviously is up there with Domingo Germán against the A's for sure. I think what was cool was in Seattle this past September when they clinched a playoff berth. I was on the call for that. It was a foregone conclusion that they were going to go to the postseason at a certain point, but for them to nail it down and clinch the berth, that was really cool, especially after they didn't go to the postseason in 2023. I like that a lot. That's memorable. And there was my first games at Fenway.
Oh, wow.
And just to be at Fenway, Yankees, Red Sox, it still matters a lot to me. And the games were really competitive and entertaining. It was in late July this past year, and there was one game in particular, I think it was the Saturday game, where they just went back and forth. Trent Grisham was down to his final strike in the ninth. Red Sox were a pitch away from ending the game, and he hits a game-tying double off the monster. It was just back and forth. It was so fun. So fun. Soto and Judge hit back-to-back homers in the first inning. A great weekend, and I love that it's it's tough to recall because there hasn't been those big standout moments that are just self-explanatory. But one of my first series that I did, I think it was the first series that I did. The final game was a walk-off hit at the stadium, and it was by Gleyber Torres, and that was way back in 2019. But
Wow.
just to kind of have him have a walk-off hit, go through that experience as the clubhouse reporter, interviewing him on the field, get the Gatorade bath, all that stuff. That's an indelible mark. And then I will say this because it just came to me a couple of years ago. Aaron Judge, his 2-3 home run games. I was filling in for Meredith for both of them, I believe. They were like a month apart. That was really cool as well.
Those are some awesome ones.
Yeah.
Justin, thank you so much. Tell everyone where they can find you at on social media and all the stuff you're going to be doing this year.
Real simple. Twitter, Instagram, or X, Instagram and TikTok. Just my full name at Justin Shackil. Nothing fancy. Yeah, we'll be on Yes in a variety of roles this year, and I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm interested to see what that World Series loss does to this team. Does it make them tougher? Does it make them hungrier? I think it will, and if it does, this could be an exciting couple of months here.
Well, Justin, I'm going down to spring training next month. I do hope to see you there. And if you are there, we'll
Likewise.
definitely have to connect. So you're the best. Thanks for coming on on the first day of full pitcher and catchers working out. So, Justin, have a great one, and hopefully I see you soon.
Thanks for having me, Julian. Take care.
Of course, anytime. So that was Justin Shackil. I'm going to finish the solo edition quickly to touch on some Met stuff here. And then we'll go forward with that. Let me see if I can get the background back. Hopefully, I might not be able to. It's fine. So, okay, Justin gave a lot of good thoughts. I agree with him on basically everything he said. Third base, Nathan, I'll tell you now, since you asked about it before, I'll tell you everything he said word for word. He doesn't believe the opening day third baseman's on the roster still. He mentioned guys like Josh Smith, Matt Vierling being possible if Bregman goes to the Tigers. He also mentioned Nico Horner if Bregman goes to the Cubs. So we kind of might have to see how the Bregman situation plays out. And then, if Bregman doesn't go to Boston or if he goes there, maybe Arenado to the Yankees becomes more realistic. Although that one seems a little bit out of touch still. A lot of the Yankees people are shooting that idea down. I know there's some Cardinals people that are into it. So here's my take on Nolan Arenado. Look, is it my first option? No. Was it even my second or third when the offseason started? Probably not. But if you're looking at what the Yankees are faced with right now, you can't tell me that Nolan Arenado doesn't make them better. That's just not true. He makes them better than what you're going to have to deal with right now if there's no other options. If it's him or what they have now, he's definitely better than what they have now. No questions asked. You're going to get elite defense still. You just need his bat to be league average. I know 16 and 71 is not great power numbers from him. It's actually the lowest he's had maybe ever, since his rookie year or something. But and I know the stadium doesn't fit his swing well. So there's pros and cons with him for sure. But if you bat him 6 or 7, that's not bad if he's batting 6 or 7. He's not going to be 3 or 4 like he was with the Cardinals. So maybe it's something we're doing. The Marcus Stroman thing is really, really interesting to me. At this point, I'm almost 50-50 on if he's going to get traded or not going into the season with them. Because if they keep him, they know they won't have to pick up the option next year because he's going to be the 6th starter. If they don't keep him and they maybe get salary relief, they get under the luxury tax or whatever because they're $5 million over right now, leave enough money left for the deadline or whatnot. But he is good depth to have in case something happens. And we know injuries pop up. Jay Cousins, Clayton Beeter already dealing with stuff. So we'll see how they look and if they're ready for opening day or not, if Beeter is on the MLB roster. So one thing I want to do quick is talking about this bullpen situation. The bullpen situation to me is really interesting. So I think it's like this, honestly. You look at how the extra arms they have. I think JB Bruder-Baker is going to end up being on this team because he's out of options. And the Yankees, if they wanted to ditch him, they could have non-tendered him. So I think Bruder-Baker is going to be around. And we'll see. And that's going to make it tough for other guys. And then if Marcus Stroman's in the bullpen, that makes it even harder. Because then, you really only have 8 bullpen options. So if you have Stroman and Brubaker, that's only 6 spots left. You know Devin Williams is getting a spot. You know Fernando Cruz is getting a spot. You also know that Luke Weaver's getting a spot. But Weisinger gets a spot when he's healthy. So that's something to me that is very up in the air right now. And they need to try to use this to their advantage. Like Mark Leiter Jr. could definitely be had, I feel like. Think about it. He's making $2 million, which is like the most of any of their non-elite bullpen arms. It could help them shed some payroll if that's what they want to do. Do they necessarily need him? No, not really. Was he good in the playoffs? Yeah, but he was not good in the regular season. Could he be better year 2? I think he could. But again, if you're trading from a surplus, why not? You don't think the Rangers will take a look at Leiter Jr., reunite him with his cousin Jack? I mean, they might do that. And then maybe you get Josh Smith that way. Give the Rangers a few relievers, get Josh Smith back. Like Justin said, he doesn't really have a role on the Rangers. He's kind of the super utility guy. But to me, Josh Smith has earned the opportunity to play every day. And the Yankees could offer him that at third base. He was obviously in the system. They made a horrendous trade for Joey Gallo, and he had to be part of that. And it's unfortunate because they're still looking for a third baseman. So that's what I'll say about the bullpen. They have so many guys. Like I'm definitely forgetting guys too. Like Efros, maybe he bounces back. Ian Hamilton, like I said, I feel like he can go either way. I think he's great when healthy, but he's had a lot of health issues. He is getting older. He's been battle tested. I do trust him when the ball's in his hand, but again, like how much do they really need him? You could definitely debate. And there's like so many guys. Yandris Gomez is out of options too. Do they try something there? Personally, I like him, but how many guys can you really keep in the bullpen? I feel like him or Brubaker is definitely not going to make it because they're both out of options. So that's what I would say with that. But Tyler Matzik as well. I love the Tyler Matzik deal. And Tim Hill, he's going to be in the bullpen for sure. There's your lefties. If Matzik makes the team, which will not shock me, $1.5 million is a bargain for him if he makes the team. And he has done it before. He's had big outs in the playoffs. His nickname is Nutsack for a reason. And yes, I'm not being inappropriate. That's actually what he signs his baseballs as. So that is a thing. But Matzik is a great pitcher when healthy. He had Tommy John 22, was not good with the Giants last year. Can the Yankees resurrect him? He is 34, but it's possible. Let's see. I like that one a lot. So that's what I'm looking at there. And another thing I want to say, I don't think I mentioned this on the podcast yet, is I would lead off Cody Bellinger actually right now and then let Dominguez settle into it because it's not going on the thing, whatever, but let Bellinger set the tone first. You bat Judge second. You bombard teams with them 1-2 to start the game. And then I know the bottom of the lineup would suffer a little bit, but you could do, let's say, Bellinger 2, Stanton 3. 4 could be Wells or Chisholm, whichever one you want. Then you could put Goldie 5, and then you go with Volpe, Oswaldo, DJ, or Peraza at the bottom. And I'm missing one guy, I think. Who's the other dude? Let's see. Oh, Dominguez, right. I would put Dominguez like in the 7 or 6 spot. There we go. So that's how I would play it potentially. And that's about all I have for Yankees talk. So Mets, let's do the Mets really quick. Okay, the banners just aren't working now, but now it's gonna work. Okay, Mets. So with the Mets, I mean, you're hearing a lot of stuff about the 6-man rotation. You're gonna have Paul Blackburn and Tyler McGill in the mix, amongst others. Looks like Clay Holmes they're legitimately putting in the rotation, which I don't like again, but they're gonna do it. So we'll see how that works out for them. And then Pete Alonso is back. I get to talk about it on the podcast now. They re-signed Pete Alonso, and that's a big move for them. They get him on their terms, 1 year for $30 million, basically. There's an option for 2024. That's his option for the second year. It's a home run for the Mets. It really is. They need the line of protection. They don't commit to him long term. They keep themselves flexible if Vladdy Jr. is an option for them if the Jays can't extend him. So the Mets lineup is looking pretty good. They're saying that Jeff McNeil might play left because Brandon Nimmo might DH, like Pat told me a few weeks back. And then second, you can maybe see Acuna or something. They're playing Brett Beatty a second too, and then Mauricio possibly. Beatty, they're going to move around a little bit. Vientos will play third base. You still got Winker and Marte as options too. So the Mets lineup is going to be fine. I think their bullpen's definitely better. There was a few injury updates I should get to with the Mets, so let me double check on those. There was some stuff that came in, so I'm gonna take a look at that, and then we'll see like where it all goes. But I think they're in a good spot. Do I think they're a shoo-in to win the NL East? No, I don't, because the Braves and the Phillies are really good. And the Phillies have better pitching, especially in the rotation. No question about that. The Braves lineup is still very good. Like I said in other episodes, I really like the Max Fried. I mean, not Max Fried edition. There was the freaking Profar. My bad. The Profar edition for the Braves was a sounds one. I think he fits them perfectly, especially because they've had Curtis Allen players before, and he'll definitely blend well with Ozzie Albies. They're playing him in left field now, so that looks like what they're going to end up doing. And we'll see what happens with that. The Mets bullpen, AJ Minter was definitely a good addition. They actually tried for Kenley Jansen. There's some news. So they tried for Kenley Jansen. They obviously didn't get him. He went to Anaheim. I think that's a sound move by the Angels too. It gives Ben Joyce a guy to lean on. Maybe they'll mix and match save opportunities. And I think you can't ask for a better guy to teach Ben Joyce. Jansen's one of the best closers of all time. I do respect the Angels' efforts this offseason. Is it going to make them a playoff team? Probably not. But it is good to see that they're trying to get better, and they made a lot of additions. We'll see how they all impact the team. And then Anthony Rendon. This guy is a freaking joke. He somehow has to get hip surgery now. The Angels should just let him go. It's absolutely ridiculous what's happened with him. He has no care to play baseball anymore. Yeah, he's having hip surgery or whatnot, but the desire to play clearly isn't there when he's talking about playing less games and stuff. It makes absolutely no sense what's going on with that. It really, really doesn't. So they should just cut bait. He's not good for the culture and culture because the Jets. Oh man, I can't talk about that. But he's not good for the Angels culture. That's definitely a true fact. So from there, I mean, we'll have to see how everything progresses. And they have a lot to be excited about. You know, Soto, again, he's a huge addition. And when he steps in that lineup, the Citi Field crowd's going to go crazy. They're going to do their thing. And they're going to do what they got to do. So here's the updates from the Mets. The Mets, it's AJ Minter and it's Ronnie Mauricio. Mauricio is not expected to play in games until mid-March at least, because he's still dealing with that ACL rehab, that nasty injury he had last offseason, and playing with Dome. It's tough. I have a bad knee too, so hopefully he gets better quickly. I think he's an electric player. The only problem with him is his plate discipline. I think everything else he actually does pretty well, but he needs to just lay off some pitches, and he does not do the best job of that. So that's one thing I would say with him. And then AJ Minter. Minter, they're hoping to have him back for opening day as he heals from hip surgery. So that's where we're at with the Mets. And that's the best updates I can provide right now. I got a comment. Let me look. Hey, Chris, how's it going, bro? You got any Yankees questions? I just had Shackil on. We talked up shop a little bit. You could definitely catch it. Actually, you'd probably roll back now if you wanted to, but the stream's going to be over soon. So that's definitely something worth looking into. So now I'm going to do some questions. My friend had a question, so I want to answer it. Oh, you did ask me a question who I thought was better, Hefner or Matt Blake. That's so tough. I'll say Matt Blake because we have maybe a longer track record with him than we do with the Mets, but Hebner worked wonders with the pitching staff last year for the Mets. He turns around Sevi, he turns around Manaea, and he turns around Quintana. So that's what I would say with that. Yeah, he joined the Mets in 2020. Matt Blake joined the Yankees. I think it actually might have been the same. My bad on that. In 2020. Whoops. So, yeah, that was the same time. But I'll give a slight nod to Matt Blake because of all the bullpen arms the Yankees have turned around. And they did do a lot of good work with Luis Hill, but Hefner's right there. Like, it's 1A and 1B. It's really tough for me to say that. So, my friend James Gordon had a question, and I'm going to get to his question. So let's see if I could find it. I told him I would answer it. So it's actually about Shohei Ohtani, which fits into what we were saying before about the Dodgers and all that. And again, this is the last time I'm going to say this, but I will say it. I really think that Ohtani's contract should be illegal. I just don't. I just think it was a bad contract. It just doesn't make any sense. It just should not have been allowed. It was nonsensical that the league allowed it. It makes zero sense to let that happen after like all the defers and everything, and now what it's allowed the Dodgers to do. So to me, it just didn't make any sense. It really didn't, and I just don't like it at all. And it's just embarrassing that they let it happen. With making $2 million, like 45 against the cap. Like I'm not going to bring that one up again. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And now I'm going to get to my friend's questions about Shohei Ohtani. I know he was mainly asking me, like, does he think it's better that if you just let Shohei pitch and let him hit and just focus, and so he doesn't have to, like, do two things because he feels like the pitching might take away from the hitting, I think. But I'm definitely going to get to that. So we'll see if it makes sense. Okay, here we go. Putting Ohtani back in the rotation more hurtful to the Dodgers than beneficial. I don't think it's hurtful. I mean, honestly, like it's all they don't really need him in the rotation per se. If he misses at least one game at the plate and probably two if there's a game the next day, risk a third Tommy surgery, a full year out. Maybe comes in the close 6 out. Yeah, I mean, maybe you could use him out of the bullpen. I don't think he would miss a lot of time hitting because, like, when he was pitching with Anaheim, I don't really think he missed many games hitting. I mean, I'll check to see if I'm wrong, but the risking of the third Tommy John is definitely problematic. I think that's the biggest concern with him going back into rotation. But the thing is that they're going to be able to limit his innings because of that. Okay, with the Angels, he played 104 games, 106 games in year 1, year 2. Man has some injury issues. He played 155 and 157 and then 135. So, yeah, I guess it did limit a few games, and injuries were probably involved too. But, I mean, you're looking at 155 and 157. Last year, he played 159, not pitching. So maybe there's some merit. I mean, you're definitely losing some stolen bases with that because he's not going to run as much pitching. So that's what we'll see. Who is the next relief pitcher to man up after the Cousin injury? Okay. There's so many, dude. Like, I don't even know how to fully answer that. Like, is it Beater's hurt too? I would have said him. Maybe Yandris Gomez, if he can grab the job. I guess him. I'll give you Yandris Gomez. Ian Hamilton's already in the rotation of pitchers in the bullpen, probably same as Mark Leiter. So I'll say Yandris Gomez. If he can make the team and have a strong camp, I think he could pitch that multi-inning role too that Cousins does sometimes, like 2 innings. So, yeah, that's my answer to that. It definitely could have been Beater too, but I'll go with Yandris Gomez. And, yeah, so I think I'm about good here. If anyone else has anything else, I'll answer it quick. I'm going to see if I can figure out this outro, hopefully. Let's take a look if I can do it. Because then we're going to, yeah. Hold on. But again, like I'm happy baseball's back. Full squad's next week in the 17th. I think the Marlins made a move too. Maybe I could do that also. I got a tweet about it. Let me see what it was. Marlins have now. Who is it? I don't know who the hell it is still. I'm not saying. Okay, I'll figure it out in a second. Oh, Cal Control. Okay, who the hell cares? That's ridiculous. I could care less. I wish they took Stroman instead, but whatever. Yeah, just because, like, yeah. Well, I think I got another one. Let me see. Who do you think should bat leadoff? Yes, I said Ballinger. I don't know if you heard me before, but I did say Ballinger. You win. Yes, Cody Ballinger should bat leadoff because he's one of the better on base guys we have, which is not great because, like, they lost a lot on base with Soto, which is an issue I probably should have talked to with Justin more, but I think he covered it with Derek yesterday and his show, Yankees Territorial. So that's Bellinger, I just think because, like, he's a lefty, so it's a good mix-up. He can get on base, draw a walk. I think him and Judge 1-2 would be great. The only thing is, if you're going against a lefty, you're going to want someone else batting leadoff, probably. Yes, he does. You're right, Chris. He does. That's 100% correct. I know the Cubs and Dodgers have definitely done that with him before. So that's a good point. I would do it. I don't have any issue with it. Except against lefties, I would do someone else. But against righties, yeah, I'm in. So I think Dominguez could grow into that guy, but I don't want them to put pressure on Dominguez growing into that yet. So that's my issue with that. Other than that, like I'm good with him batting leadoff. So that's something that we could definitely try to see if that makes sense. All right, now that is gonna do it, I think. So let me see if I can do this outro. Let me see if it'll let me do it. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna let me, so I guess I'm just gonna have to sign off. But actually, wait, I think I could. Here we go. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. Follow Julian Gordy one Instagram. Actually, that's Twitter. Julian Gordy one Twitter, Instagram, Julian Gordy 11. Araskina everywhere. Everyone follow Justin Shackil. First name, last name. You see it here everywhere. And thank you, everyone, for allowing me to do this. I appreciate it. And I will be back next week. Maybe I'll start picking up 2-a-days, 2 times a week, since spring's getting a little more rampant with full squad workouts. We're just warming up this week with pitchers and catchers. Next week is when things might get a little bit serious, and you'll probably get some more activity in the free agent market. And then Nick Pivetta, he's got to go somewhere. I think Cubs or Angels should get Pivetta, so that's what I'll end with. Okay, well, I almost ended it properly, so that'll do it.